Hi everybody and welcome to the video and live streaming show. My name's John Lacey. Thank you so much for being here today. Today we're going to be talking all about the Social Stream Ninja. I want to call it a plugin. It is technically a browser plugin rather than an OBS Studio plugin, but it's a great thing that can let you bring in different elements into your stream. So we're going to be talking about that today. Sam Proof would normally be joining me, but he is unwell at the moment, so we wish him a speedy recovery. But we would love to hear from you wherever you happen to be watching from. I don't know what this is. This is going to just cut my head off because I'm not normally this large in the frame. But anyway, if you are watching live, you can do hashtag team live or hashtag team replay. But let's check out who is in the chat today. I haven't really had a chance to promote this stream too much because I was madly getting stuff ready for it. But hello to C, the facilitator from Germany. Team Live, thank God it's Friday. It's actually Saturday here in the future in Australia, but I love that for you. Hope you've had a good Friday. Yeah, so let's get stuck into it. I don't know how today's going to go because I don't normally do this show by myself. So you know, we'll just see what happens. And I want to talk to you about this thing, which I think is amazing. We spoke about this a little bit last week on the show as well. And the thing is, not only is the software I'm going to show you today really, really cool, but it's also literally free. And I really want to sort of emphasize how much I love the fact that we can actually we actually have some free and open source software that we can use for free. And that's really great for students, for non-profit organizations, and it is really, really cool. So we're going to get stuck into that today. So we're talking all about Social Stream Ninja, and this is a really cool piece of software by a guy by the name of Steve. And I guess just to get started, I'm going to play you a quick video just to show you the very, very basics of how this works. Okay, let's talk about downloading and installing Social Stream Ninja. So if you go to docs.video.ninja, you'll find the documentation here for Social Stream Ninja. Just click on this link to the GitHub repository. I've actually already got this one open over here. So if we go to the top of the screen, this is where the code is hosted. We scroll down a little bit, we can actually find some jump to download and install instructions. So we can do that here. Basically, to install this one, you do need a Chromium-based browser on your computer, which for most of us is probably a Google Chrome or Microsoft Edge. But you can do that and install that. There's a link here for the newest version of this, so we can come in, we can click on this, and we can download it. But I just want to draw your attention to some of the things that we do need to do after we've actually done this, is that we do need to, in Chrome, go Chrome... Chrome://extensions. So this is often a good one to actually have ready to go. But what I want to do, I'm going to copy this. I'm just going to close out of Chrome for a second because I've just downloaded a new version of this. Once you do have the zip file, all you really want to do is put this somewhere where you can access it again. So I'm going to I've just got this on the root of my C drive. I'm going to paste this over the top of the one that's already in there. I'm going to replace all those files. In fact, what I probably should have done, I'm literally just going to delete this whole folder because it's named the same thing. Just go copy and paste. Wait for that to do its thing. Okay, cool. And now if I go back into Chrome, and we use that Chrome://extensions. What we do need to do is actually turn, and in fact, I'm gonna delete this, and I hope it's not going to do anything terrible for me because I've already had this here. But let's just imagine you're starting from scratch. You've never had this installed before. What we want to do is we want to come up here and turn on developer mode, and then what we want to do is load an unpacked extension up here. So I just want to go to my C drive and I'm going to grab that folder and go select folder. Okay, that means we will be able to actually use this. So what I want to do now is if I click up here where the extensions are, we've got the ability to pin this. And I think this is a really good idea to do this. So pin it and then you'll be good to go. So from here, we will have access to all our little things. We do want to make sure we enable our extension so it is available to use. And then we have the ability to do a whole bunch of different things. So we're going to be talking about those in more depth on the show today. But essentially the big one, and let me just go and open another version of OBS that we can have running in the background so I can demonstrate how some of this works. Modified. I have so many portable versions of OBS on my computer, it's kind of ridiculous. But let's open this one. So there's a couple of things that I want to unpack here. And again, like, we don't need to worry too much about this. I'm going to get rid of, and this is an older version, but that's fine. I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to get rid of the text, just so that we've got a bit of a background to work with. And the first thing I want to do is if I go back to Chrome, we've got the streaming chat dockable, and we've got a URL here. I'm going to blur out the last little bit of this URL because this is a unique URL. Don't share this URL with anyone unless they're actually part of your production team. And what I want to do is I'm going to go up to Docs, and we're going to do a custom browser doc. And I'll call it Social Stream Ninja. I mean, you can call it whatever you like. And just paste that URL in and click apply. And you'll see this new doc will appear over here. We're going to, so it's asking, do you want to allow public and private networks to access this app? I'm just going to say allow because it's just my firewall doing its thing. I'm going to put that over there and click close. So it's kind of defaulted at the top of the screen, which is not a particularly great place to have the chat. So I'm going to put it on the left-hand side. I'm going to drag this out a little bit so you can see what's happening here. So at the moment, there's not much happening in our chat, but potentially if I go back to our extension, I can hit a button that says trigger a fake test message, and I'll do that maybe 3 or 4 times. And now if we go back here, you'll see that we've got a whole bunch of test messages. So we know that's working. Now, one thing you can actually do with that same URL is have all the chat messages on your screen. So I personally don't love this because there's always the danger that somebody will say something offensive or they'll just be spamming you in the comments, and we don't really want to encourage that. We don't want that to be embedded into our video for the rest of the time. But just to show you how it is possible to do this, if we go to our sources, hit the plus button there to add a new source, we'll go to browser. Again, I'll call this all chat. You might want to give it a different name. You can sort of change the dimensions of this. So I don't know, I'm inclined to go 1920 by 1080 just to see what that looks like. And what we want to do is paste that same URL into this URL bar here. And there are other settings. You can change how this looks potentially with CSS, but let's not worry too much about that right now. So the thing about this is this, once we've added it, it'll show the future comments. So let me go back. Let me just trigger a few more fake messages. And there we go. We've got those actually showing up on the screen. So that in itself is really nifty if you want to do that. But again, just be mindful that you might want to be a little bit careful about the ones that you want shown, because these potentially will go out live. They will be embedded in that main video recording of yours. So there's not a lot you can do to get rid of them, short of obscuring them later on in video editing software. Okay, so what we do want to do, let's go down to this featured chat overlay. And we're going to copy that one. And again, don't give out any of these as such, because other people can trigger things in your stream. I'm actually going to just recycle this existing all chat because I don't really want all the chat messages to come in here. So again, I've made this 1920 by 1080, and I'm going to paste that new URL in there and just click OK. Now what happens is if I click on one of these in our chat doc, it will appear at the bottom of the screen, which is really, really nifty. And again, some of those test messages are actually from Steve, who is the creator of Video Ninja and Social Stream Ninja. So, you know, if you want to give him a plug, that's a nice way of doing that. So those are a couple of different ways that we can actually do this in terms of just getting started with these comments. Okay, so that's some basics on how we can get started with Social Stream Ninja. Part of the reason, and I really want to underscore this, that I created that video is just simply because we don't want to be in a situation where we're unintentionally sharing those session IDs, because people outside of your stream can trigger things that will be live on your stream. And if that person who has access to that is somebody who's a producer or a co-host, that's potentially fine. Although if that's some strange person on the internet, that could potentially be very, very bad. So just keep that in mind. Um, Saeed is mentioning too that things are a little weird on LinkedIn today. So if you are actually trying to watch from LinkedIn and the comments aren't getting here, just come over to YouTube, youtube.com/@learn livestreaming. We're live over there as well. But Saeed also writes regarding Social Stream Ninja, it may look more complicated to install than it actually is. So it actually isn't that difficult to install. It's just that you need to know a couple of things. So once you download that software, just unzip it somewhere on your computer. It doesn't really matter too much where it is, but you just don't want it to be somewhere you might accidentally delete it, because you'll probably need that to work properly. And you follow that Chrome colon / extensions option. Just make sure the developer mode is on, and make sure you load that unpacked version of the plugin, and you're pretty much good to go. So, you know, I mean, we've got an example here. Obviously, the fact that I've got Saeed's comment here on the screen is literally a live example of how this works. I should say too, and we'll talk about this in more detail in a moment, but it's actually kind of really important that, and I've got LinkedIn user. So if you are watching LinkedIn user, and that's the current comment, if you do want to communicate with me and you want to be known, there is actually, if you go to the About section of the LinkedIn Live event, you will see a link to Restream that'll just give you a bit of information on how you can make your name visible to the rest of us. But if you don't want to, that's fine too. Okay, so those are a couple of things. And yes, Saeed is very easily amused, so he's excited to be on screen. Let's talk about some of the other fun things to do. And again, I don't know that I've even got that many people watching live, and that's fine. That's just how this stuff works. But what I want to do, and this is a classic thing out of the Saeed text block. That's actually not what I wanted, that particular one. But let's talk about it. Let's talk about the emote wall. So again, I'm going to show you some screenshots of different things just because I need to obscure that session ID. But this is an example of one of the features that we have available to us. Here, it's the Emote Wall, and essentially this gives you the ability to bring in, you know, some animated emojis in different ways. So what happens is we'll be given this URL. We bring this in as a browser source in OBS in the same way that we do everything else. And you've got a whole bunch of different options here. I've actually made the emojis twice the size. And I've also clicked on that emojis to filter out option. So you can sort of add some things there to make sure that not everything comes across. But let me just, and for the life of me, I keep pressing on the wrong things, but that's okay. It's going to be that kind of day, I suspect. I'm just going to do this. In fact, I will hide this for a second. And I'm just going to bring in a browser source. What I kind of want you to do in the chat, is basically tell me if you're, and again, I probably should have been a little bit more organized doing this, but I'm going to do it live. So when you do create a browser source, you will see that sort of placeholder there. And I'm just going to click OK. But what I want you to do now is, if you're a cat person, put in some cat emojis. If you're a dog person, put in some dog emojis. If there's some other pet that you like, goldfish, throw that into the chat too. It's all good. But let's just see what this actually looks like. And I might see if I can do some of this as well. So I'll do it from over here, and let's grab some dogs. Okay, so not quite dogs or cats. So I'd say it's gone for a whole bunch of different people. So I've got a whole bunch of dogs there. We've actually got the ability to bring those in. Interestingly, depending on where I actually trigger these comments, I might get them twice in the chat. But essentially, that can be a really fun way of bringing people into your world in that way. So, you know, it's often a great opportunity to, you know, do thumbs up or thumbs down. And again, I'm going to throw some of this into the chat as well, just to show you what this looks like. And I love the fact that Saeed's sort of got an otter and a fish there. They would be fun pets. Although I once went to a zoo where I saw a whole bunch of otters, and they looked really, really cute. But then it was feeding time, and they were just ripping the heads off some dead mice, which was kind of less endearing. But it is what it is. So, and the other great thing about this, and we've spoken about this too, is that if you've got to mix it up, chat box or whatever, you can also include that. So here I've got John's chat support saying, hey, don't forget to like and subscribe. So that's an option as well. I'm going to turn off the emoji wall because I think that might get a little bit distracting. And again, if you ever want to do that, you can literally just toggle the visibility on and off in OBS Studio. So that's not a massive undertaking at all. But we're going to come back. We'll talk about some more of the features of Social Stream Ninja and some of the fun things that we can actually do right after this.
We are constantly training our cats every interaction that we have with them. So when Johan would get on my counter before, this is 10 years ago, before I was the cat expert that I am now, Johan would jump on the counter. What was the first thing I did? I'd say his name, Johan. He loves that. That's a reward for him. He said, you just said my name. I would go over to him and I talk to him and be like, you can't be on the counter. Johan loves when I talk to him. Ding, that's another reward for Johan. I'd pick him up and put him on the ground, but I didn't want him to think I was mad at him. So when I'd pick him up very nicely and kiss him on the head and say, I love you, but you can't be here. I'd put him on the ground. I had just done 3 things that rewarded him for being on the counter. So I was encouraging him to continue doing that.
And that's a promo for Sam Proof's podcast, Just Kidding Around, which you can learn more about over at cuteavalanche.com. But this is the video and live streaming show. Today we're talking all about the Social Stream Ninja plugin. I keep calling it a plugin. It's technically a browser plugin, not an OBS Studio plugin, but it is what it is. And again, thanks for the thumbs up from our good friend LinkedIn user. I have a feeling I know who that is, but I will know for sure after the show. But if you did want to, you could sort of follow those instructions, but it's okay if you don't want to. I'm not going to force you. And hello to Roy Kowalski, who's watching from Sydney, Australia as well. Great to have your company today. So we're talking about this free plugin, and I keep calling it a plugin. It's technically a browser plugin, not an OBS Studio plugin. I know that's something that I think only the nerdiest amongst us, which today I think is literally just Saeed, would appreciate. But essentially, it is something that we can run in the browser. And the great thing about Video Ninja is it does sort of grab the comments from a whole bunch of different places that we can sort of use in OBS. And I think really, and I think there were like 15 different places that it kind of supports to bring these in to OBS relatively easily. One thing I do want to talk about briefly, and I must admit, this is not something I really use very often. So I just want to, I guess, give you the heads up on that one. But I just want to mention too, it is important to actually have the pop-up chats enabled for this if you are going directly from different places. So I'm going to, I'm just going to bring in an image to give you a sense of what this actually looks like. All right, so this is actually a recording from a screenshot rather from YouTube. So you'll see here that when you go to the chat, live chat, and click on the 3 dots to bring up that menu, there's an option to click on that says pop-up chat. So from here, this will actually pop up, and this is the thing that will give Social Stream Ninja access to these chats. You do need to have it running, but you do need to have it also popped up. But the thing that I do that is actually a little bit different is that I will literally, we sort of go through Restream, and Restream has its own, and I guess the reason that we use Restream, or that I use Restream, is so it's just saying funny things in the comments, which we'll get to in a second. But the reason the predominant reason I use Restream is really twofold: just to go to different places and use Restream's resources to broadcast to multiple destinations rather than rely too much on my own internet connection. Because I'm in regional Australia. Let's be real, the infrastructure is okay, but it's not great. It's not perfect. So I love the idea that they can take on the extra bandwidth of that. But also, I really do love this combined chat, which, if you are a Restream user, you can go to chat.restream.io, and it'll actually combine these things for me. So in that sense, I don't need to go to 10 different destinations and have those running in the background, which also potentially is impacting my internet connection as well. So I like to come through here. So I don't need to pop out the chat. I just need to make sure it's open and that I've selected the live that I'm actually using. So that's often the thing that I tend to use, and the thing that I need to be conscious of just before going live is that I've switched to that particular chat. So hello to Business Growth Ready, who's all ears while on the PC while working on the Mac. Okay, Business Growth Ready, we need to have a chat about this because I'm very tempted to get a Mac Mini just to see how the other half live, and Saeed's already preempted where this is going. But I'm just curious if it's worth it, because I love the idea of using the same monitors and peripherals, and I've got a KVM switch. Again, very nerdy today on the show, so sorry if that's not your thing. But I love the idea of potentially having access to a second computer without sort of needing additional monitors and keyboards and mice and stuff. So I'd be really interested to hear how that's going. But Saeed writes, the good thing is it works in every tool that sorts browser widget or source like Ecamm and others. And again, Saeed has censored that out for comedic purposes. He also writes, I use it in Zoom plus OBS most of the time. Works the exact same way. So I guess, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Saeed, but my understanding of how this works for you in Zoom is that you use the Zoom client and you also log into a browser-based version, and it's sort of the browser-based version that's grabbing the comments. Is that correct? That's I know you demonstrated something on a facilitation group at one point, and I think that's how that works. But I personally don't use Zoom ever, so I'm not really across that one. But okay, so I guess the other thing that I do want to talk about, and I'm not sure, we might actually get through today's content really, really quickly. And if that's the case, we can just hang out and chat about other things. Let me know if there's something that you want to talk about. But I guess we do have some. In fact, we won't do that one just yet. We'll come back to that. But let's. Yes. Okay. So Sage's just confirming that is indeed how that's working. But I just wanted to call this out. So this is, again, a screenshot of the extension. We make sure the extension is running. We actually have a number of different URLs here. They do have those unique session IDs. And again, I've obscured them in the graphics that you'll be seeing today because it is a bit of a security risk. If somebody on the internet has access to these, things can go very badly. So just keep that in mind. Don't share those with anybody unless they should have access to those. But essentially, we've got the streaming chat dockable, which is the one that we brought in for the dock in OBS, but it's also the one that you could use if you wanted to feature all the chat comments on screen. Again, I don't love that, but I would be really, really curious to see how other people feel about that. So let me know in the chat where how you feel about that one. But essentially the other thing too is we've got the featured chat overlay, and I think this is where most of the power comes from. So, you know, you can sort of feature a particular chat comment, and there are a whole bunch of different options, and I won't even get into them today, but like if you click on that plugin, there are so many options. The thing that is worth noting is that when you change those options, it'll give you an updated URL to copy and paste into your either dock or browser source. So you will need to copy and paste that in again. But like, there's all kinds of different options. You can style this with CSS, which is cascading style sheets. And if that's not the web design development world you live in, you probably don't want to worry about that too much. Although Saeed did send me code at one point, which apparently was generated by ChatGPT to change how those things appeared. And I don't love ChatGPT. I think it's a pretty well. I'm not into the AI stuff at all, but you know, you do you. Okay, but let's talk about something else. And again, I haven't really tested this, and you guys are going to be guinea pigs for me today. So, let's just go. So this is the graphical poll option I'm about to test in a moment. So I'm going to say, do you use OBS Studio? And I'm going to enable the poll. I'm going to bring this up here. It's probably not a great place for it to be. Maybe we can move that around. I don't know what I moved, but it wasn't the poll. All right, I might actually need to update that URL as well. So just bear with me because I did, in the interest of showing you how to install this, I have effectively reinstalled it this morning. So all my session IDs are different now. So that potentially is a thing. But what I want to know is, do you use OBS Studio? And the way I need you to respond to this in the chat is hashtag yes or hashtag no. And we will just see what this looks like. And I realize I'm doing so much of this on the fly today, and it's not necessarily the most elegant way of doing this. But let's just roll with it. We're just having fun. We're just learning a few things. So do you use OBS Studio? Hashtag yes or hashtag no in the chat. Let's just see what happens. And if that's going to work. Because I did actually spend a little bit of time sort of updating this in terms of the CSS. So there is a danger that maybe I've done too much and it's just going to break. But let's just roll with it. Okay, and it's not really doing anything at all as far as I can see. So what we might do, I don't know, there we go. I just needed to give it a moment. So we've had 3 votes for yes, 2 from Saeed and 1 from Business Growth Ready. And you'll see that this graphical poll has updated itself to say 100% of our participants have written yes. If there is anybody watching out there that doesn't use OBS, just in the interest of showing how this works, or even if you know, maybe Saeed wants to vote again, hashtag no. I do believe you need to actually use the hashtag before it though. I could be wrong about that. But I think that's how that works. And the great thing about this is that you actually have a whole bunch of different options. So you can give people specific hashtags to use if you wanted to. So you could have hashtag eCam, hashtag OBS, like whatever. And there we go. So Saeed has put in that hashtag no, just in the interest of showing how this works. So I must admit, I don't love the way, in fact, let me, I'm going to just get rid of my custom CSS for a second and click OK. And I might need you to, and you'll see that this changes how it looks. And I personally don't love the way it looks by default. But again, just in the interest of populating something, I will just say hashtag yes in the comments. And we just, I guess the thing I'm learning today is essentially you do need to give it a couple of minutes to update. So ask the question early, maybe do your intros, maybe talk about the different things that you want to work with, and then it should eventually populate, hopefully. So again, it's not a deeply scientific thing, but it could be quite a fun interactive thing for you to try. And I guess the other thing too, and I don't really want to change too much of this on the fly because it'll change how it looks. But essentially, if you go to the poll options, you have different options for different poll types. So you can have free form, which is that people can sort of add their own hashtags. You've got yes, no, or you've got multiple choice. So with multiple choice, you actually specify a handful of hashtags. Okay, Saeed is saying that this one actually does work without the hashtag. So that's potentially good to know. Although you can see the way I'm stacking these, I might need to resize where that actually goes. But it is really, really cool and really fun. And it is something that you can sort of encourage people to interact with a little bit as you go. So I guess, you know, the technology of this is really cool. And our eternal thanks go out to Steve. He is making some really cool stuff that really supports creators. And he is so approachable. He has his own Discord. I had an issue with the way that the Restream chat was showing URLs, and he fixed this for me in 5 minutes. And he was like, just download the new version. And I can't say how much we love, you know, our developers for that specific reason. So that's just another example. And again, let me just put this back up on the screen. So we do have these options. We've got the hype meter, we've got the wait list or the winner draw, and the graphical poll is the one that I just showed you then. So that's really, really cool. We'll come back in a second and we'll explore some more of this, but this is the video and live streaming show. I'm John Lacey. Thank you so much for being here today. Hi, I'm John Lacey, and in Build a Presentation Muscle, I want to talk about finding your voice, refining and sharing your message, using tools and technology to share that message, and looking after yourself as a creator. And that's a promo for my podcast, Build a Presentation Muscle, which is all about showcasing your expertise through content creation. And you can learn more about that one over at johnlacey.com. This is the video and live streaming show. Thank you so much for joining us. Hello to Chirito. Forgive me if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly. I was really hoping you'd actually have that on your LinkedIn profile so I could do the pronunciation. So I'm sorry if I'm making a mess of that, but it is lovely to have your companies. Thank you so much for being here. Said does mention too that the poll thing is quite new, so maybe it needs some more tweaks and bug fixing. So yeah, I mean, potentially it could be, but again, Said actually had it, and I had some conversations about this earlier, and I think it's really important that you think about this as an interactive thing, not necessarily a scientific survey or polls, because potentially the different docs you've got open, the chats that you've got popped up, you know, it's not going to be definitive in that sense, but it is really cool. All right, so far, and let's I don't know, I'm having too much fun sort of exploring all of these things, but let's just roll with it, because we're having fun today. But I'm going to bring back the emoji or the emote wall, and I want you to throw some emojis into the chat, just so I can remind those that are just joining us what that actually looks like. So whatever you like. There are a couple of that have been removed from the settings. In fact, what I might do is I'll just show this on screen to remind you what this looks like. So the emotes wall, essentially it lets people put chat comments in with the emojis and they'll pop up on the screen. You can sort of see that in action. We've got some lovely ones popping up there. And we have all these different options. So we've got the ability to filter out duplicate emotes per message. We can limit to 10 emotes at a time. We can show messages for 20 seconds rather than 5 seconds. That would have been a fun one to actually include, I think. Maybe I'll do that next time. Make all emojis half the size. I actually use the make all emojis twice the size. And I find they are a little bit too small if you don't do that. But that's just my preference. And again, we've got a few more of those. And if I just hide this, you can see they'll just pop up on top of whatever happens to be thrown in there. So again, I know Saeed in his facilitation classes loves to pose a question like, are you a cat person or a dog person? Are you a Windows person or a Mac person? And just give people the ability to answer that with those emojis, which is really, really fun. So you can certainly do that. And if you get tired of that, again, all you need to do is toggle the eye against that particular browser source in OBS to make them go away. And of course, we sort of spoke about how we can feature those chat comments and how you could potentially also feature all of them. But again, like I said, and this might just be a me thing, I'm always a little wary about showing all the comments on, like all the chat comments on screen, just in case somebody doesn't play nicely. And once that's in your video, it's basically there. Everyone's seen it. There's not a lot you can do to sort of hide that moving forward. So I want to talk about some of these other features. And again, some of these are very, very new to me. So I don't even know that I have a great sense of how they work. But let's just unpack some of these. So we have the hype meter. And again, Saeed says it's a nice one. If you can tell me in the chat what it actually does, because I'm not really aware. I haven't had a chance to play with this one yet. So it says, when enabled, a tally score of unique names per chat source is tracked. Stop or start to reset the tally. So enable and customize. I'm going to turn that on. I'm actually going to, and again, I won't show you how this works because I don't want to show you that screen, but we'll go hype meter. All right, so I'll turn off the hype meter. The hype meter is running. So again, now whoever actually chats will appear here. Okay, it doesn't look like the chat meter plays very nicely with Restream Chat because it's literally just got the Restream logo and one active chatter in the last 5 minutes. So again, this may not work for me as someone who's using Restream Chat to bring all my comments together. But if I was going out to different sources, like if I was bringing in the YouTube chat comments, for example, it probably would have a better chance of doing this. So I don't think that's going to give us a lot of joy, but let's just check in with what Saeed has said about it. It shows the number of active people in the chat, even from different sources. Okay, so that's good to know. So, and of course, you know, for me, they're all coming through Restream. So there are certainly, you know, there are implications on how you are potentially using that, but I mean, it's nice to have different things. So essentially, it seems to be counting the active chats in the last 5 minutes. Yes, that's literally what say he just wrote as I was saying that. Okay, well that's cool. I mean, I don't know, like if that's an impressive number, that might be something you want to share. But if you've got 0 people or 1 people in there in the chat, you may not want to show that. But it's interesting nonetheless. So I'm just looking at some of these other options. We've got the ability to align the overlay to the right side. We can disable the text outlining, magnify the view, make the font icons and menu smaller, force the transparent background. Okay. So Amy McFarland, I'm alone in the chat with the bots. Lol. Okay, I'm not really sure. Like you might be watching over on Sam's channel. I'm not sure, but that's okay. All right. So we've got all different kinds of options. We can have light mode. We can have different font families. You can actually specify your own fonts, Google font. So if there's a font that you like to use, you can use that as well. We do have the wait list or winner draw option. And again, let me just pop that up on the screen. The screenshot. Oh no, that's the Emote Walls. We want this one here. Okay, so the wait list or winner draw. So when enabled, guests can type join or a custom command in the chat to be added to an ordered list of users, stop or start to reset the queue or draw. So potentially if you had some sort of giveaway, that might be a fun one to explore. Okay. So Saeed's giving me some prompts. He says, talk about the doc. You can filter by words, for example. So this is interesting. And again, I haven't actually done a lot of this, but let me just pop this up. And I'm actually gonna do the thing that I sort of told you not to do, but just in the interest of making this and I'm moving this onto a different screen. Let's just put that there. And I'm just resizing this, which I know is not exciting because you can't even see it yet, but let's just talk about it. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to share the screen. So this is actually the Ninja Chat doc. So this is from OBS that I'm showing you right now. We do have some different options. We can pause the chat. We can send a text message to a social endpoint, which again, I must admit, I've never really used any of these options ever. So we've got the ability to start beeping when there is a new message, and we've got the ability to filter. So I know a lot of streamers like to do this thing where they're like, put a Q in at the beginning of your question if you've got a question, and that way we can sort of go, hey, if it starts with Q colon, we can filter that in or out. I don't really love that, but I guess what I would be interested in is in fact, I don't know that we've got any questions that actually incorporate a question mark, but you could do that as well. Just for argument's sake, I'm going to type in the word Sydney because that is something I know that Roy mentioned where he was from. So I could potentially come in here and just see all the chat comments that were from Sydney. If I click on this one, for example, you'll see that it'll pop up in the featured chat section. So it's interesting, and again, it's not something I personally use because our chat isn't really extremely active, if you know what I mean. But it is sort of a cool option that is there. So if you had like a specific, you know, a specific thing that you want your commenters to do, so whether it is have that cue at the beginning of the chat message, just so you can differentiate between the questions and not. And again, I'm just going to go back to that screen share for a second because Saeed has indulged me and he wrote question with a question mark there. So again, if there are specific things you're looking for, hashtags, or questions or comments, or, you know, even gameplay. So like if you've got different things here and you're like, you know, put in this particular answer and you can filter by that and it'll show you the first one that the chat receives back. So you can determine a winner like that if you wanted to. So they have those different options. Again, we've got that. We've got the ability to filter. So hide messages that contain emojis only. So you could do that as well. So if you ask people to bring in those emojis and you don't want them all to show, you can do that. You can filter for messages that have donations or cheer. Again, that's probably pretty platform specific. filter for messages that are from members. Featured, so you can clear the featured message, not this chat. Okay, so that's cool. I've never actually done that. So if I click on here, at the moment, I've got the Saeed's question. I have a question. So if I click on that, that'll turn off featured chat. So that's cool. I've never really used that before. Featured, so auto feature messages as they come in. So if you are the kind of person that wants to show every single chat message as it comes in, you could do that as well. And we've also got text to speech. And this can be really, really useful. And I think, and again, I've not actually personally used this, so I'm not really sure how exactly it works. But if you are a person that is maybe not a good reader and you want to hear these comments come in, that is certainly something you could potentially turn on. So that can be really useful as well. Just want to make sure I turn off my filter so I can see all the chat comments that come in as they come in. And I guess I probably haven't done that correctly because I'm still only seeing Saeed. So it's okay, so I need to actually delete that filter option. There we go. All right, brilliant. So let me just see if there were any other things in here. So shameless plug from Saeed. There are some recordings of how I use it in my Zoom sessions on my YouTube channel. So the fun thing about that is if I go to mix it up, I've got a chat command for that. Enough said. So I'm going to throw that into the chat and I'll show you where you can actually access Saeed's channel here in just a second when that comes through. So it is really, really cool. And again, there's so much you can do with it. Again, I probably only touch the sides with this. I only use the things that are useful for me. But again, if you want to learn more about how this works over on Saeed's YouTube, it's youtube.com/@thefacilitator. He's got a whole bunch of really cool stuff over there as well. So this is the video and live streaming show. We have been talking all about the Social Stream Ninja plugin. Again, if you're just joining us, you know, I'm sort of demonstrating how to use this in OBS because that's the place I live. But as Saeed mentioned earlier, any software that supports a browser source can actually bring these options in for you. So they're really, really useful. We're going to come back and we'll talk about this more in just a moment.
Hey gang, if you need help running a live stream or optimizing your YouTube channel, get in touch with me. I can help you get set up with live streaming, operate your stream, strategize your YouTube channel, and so much more. Hit me up at samproof.tv and I'll talk to you soon.
And that's Sam. So Sam is usually the co-host of the show. He's unwell today, unfortunately. We do send our thoughts with him. And hope he gets better. But if you do want to learn more about Sam, you can head over to his YouTube channel or you can head over to samproof.tv and he can potentially help you with those live production services. So that's really good. Okay, we need to talk about this one because it's kind of the bane of my existence. So Saeed writes, the beep is also a good option if it doesn't distract you. Just reduce the volume so you don't need to constantly monitor the chat. But still get notified when there's a new message. So I've kind of watched a number of streams where people have this turned on, not just for themselves, not just for their own monitoring, but also for anyone watching, and just beep, 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 beep. It's like water torture. Like it is so painful. Like I beg you, if you're using that at the moment, please turn it off because nobody needs to hear that. But again, if you set it up so only you can hear it, that could be a potentially good thing for you to actually have incorporated there as well. All right, so today we're talking all about the Social Stream Ninja browser plugin, and I guess the other thing I should mention, and we're not going to dig into it today, but the way Google Chrome is working with plugins is likely to change in the near future, and Steve has been working on a standalone app that will replace the browser plugin. And when that happens, we'll probably come and revisit all of this in a future show. So just be aware of that. That app is available. I haven't personally had a chance to test it out just yet, but it is there. Okay, let's talk about the ticker option. And again, there's a whole bunch of different ways of doing this, and I guess this is just another option. So if I probably need to just double check that my settings are still correct because as I mentioned earlier, in the interest of showing you how to set this up earlier today, I have reinstalled this plugin and it's giving me different session IDs, which is totally cool. But essentially, the ticker gives you the ability to sort of nominate a text file that can just run across the bottom of your screen. So I don't know that I've got anything that's particularly exciting, but I'm going to grab a random text file on my computer just to show you how this works. So again, it's just another browser source. We turn it on, and then I can have this pop up on the bottom of the screen. I mean, I say the bottom of the screen, that's where it defaults. You could very easily resize it and remove it wherever you like. It's got the ability to change the font. And it's actually got a number of different ones here by default, but I think you can basically specify any Google font. So if I go maybe Open Sans, for example, which is something I'm very fond of. But again, just as a note, if you do update the font, you will need to update the URL of the browser source. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to click OK. And there we go. So that's what it looks like at the bottom of the screen. There's not a lot of options here. And again, this is something you could probably do in OBS anyway. So it's kind of up to you, but I do like the fact that it is very, very easy to implement this one. You literally go to the plugin, you find the ticker section, we enable it, select a text file, choose your font, and just embed it in that way, and it's good to go. So that potentially could be another useful thing for you. And again, Saeed, I suspect you probably haven't played with this one, but there's also something called Battle Royale, which is a mini game, apparently, that users can enter by doing !join to play. Again, I don't play a lot of games. That's not sort of my angle when it comes to streaming. But that might be something fun that you want to incorporate there. So have a look at that, check it out as well. So there's so much going on in this plugin. Even within an hour, I'm probably not going to be able to cover all of the things. But I guess another thing I want to talk about, though, is we actually have export and import options as well. So you can save the last message to a file. You can save all messages to an Excel file, which could potentially be quite useful. You can save all names seen in chat to a simple file. You can reset all those settings to defaults, and you can export or import your settings. So that might have been a good one for me before I actually changed everything this morning. Said is just saying that he tried it, the Battle Royale option, but didn't have much joy with that one, but it looks fun. So again, like, you don't need to use all the options. It's a bit like OBS in that sense that it does a million things, and you don't need to know all of them, but just be aware that they do exist out there and that you can have a play with them. And this is probably a really good opportunity to go live somewhere, even if it's unlisted, even if it's private, and just have a play with all these different options. So the other thing too is, in terms of the featured chat overlay, we have a whole bunch of different options to make it larger or smaller, or green, have a green background in case you want to chroma key that out, split the mode. We've got the mechanics, the visibility. A lot of this stuff you can sort of change how it looks visually with CSS. Again, that's way outside of the scope of what we're talking about today, but if you are a web designer or developer, that can be really fun. And I think this is a good observation from Saeed. Start small. The comment overlay is more than enough to start with. And I guess that's the thing, because as someone who does watch the occasional TikTok or Instagram vertical live, the thing that I find really interesting is people often read out every comment that comes by because they want a record of it. And none of this stuff is visually shown on the screen necessarily. So, I mean, that in itself is really cool. And I think a lot of the times when it comes to live streams, you really do want to incorporate the audience as much as possible. So that's something that we can do, and we should sort of think about. Yeah, so it's probably a good thing to explore. But again, I'm really curious, just out of interest, how many of you are using this at the moment? How many of you might be interested in using it in the future? I guess this is a very OBS thing. Even though you can incorporate this into Ecamm, I believe they have their own chat wrangling system. So unless you specifically wanted one of those extra features like the emote wall, I don't know that it would necessarily make sense. And I guess the other thing that dawned on me this morning is I've been using this for a really, really long time, and there's nothing to stop me from actually just bringing in the Restream chat into OBS by itself. And I don't know. I might need to explore that a little bit in the future. But I mean, there are all kinds of options, and the great thing about this is that if you're not going via Restream, if you're just going to YouTube, just make sure you've got YouTube open in the background to your live stream. Mute that tab because you don't want to hear yourself back. You really don't want to hear yourself back, and just right click on that tab and go to mute site, and then just pop out that chat in the way that I described earlier. So I think it was this one here. So you sort of go to YouTube, you click on those three dots, go to the pop out chat, and that should be good to go. Okay, and I love this too because, again, like I said, I don't do a lot with Zoom, but I know that's kind of the place that Saeed lives, and you know that's his natural home on the internet. So he writes, "For me, it is a game changer for my trainings and workshops. People love it. Who doesn't love to see their names and faces on screen? It's true magic." So I mean, that's the other thing, and I love the ability to bring those into your video frame, whether you are going live or whether you're using even the OBS virtual camera is another option as well. So it could be that you're just in a meeting and you're also recording your own camera, but you kind of want to know who asked what question, and maybe you're saying that out loud, maybe you're not. But again, that potentially could be incorporated into that particular recording. So that's really cool and really meaningful. So I don't know if anyone's got any questions. Again, it's been a little bit different for me being here all by myself. I used to do all my streams by myself, but the last 90 odd streams have incorporated Sam for the most part. So like I said, he is unwell this week, and we do hope he's feeling a little bit better because you know, he's experienced a lot this year already, and I think he really just needs a break and just needs to heal. So hopefully he's doing okay. But yeah, I'd be really interested if you are interested in checking out Social Stream Ninja. I know a lot of people in our chat are already using it and already love it. And I hope that this was useful today. But you know, I think we might even just start wrapping things up now. And again, I'm conscious of the fact when I do this, I don't think it's going to work particularly well, but I'm going to try it anyway. So I just want to mention, obviously Sam's not here at the moment, but if you want to learn more about the great work that he does with foster cats, you can head over to cuteavalanche.com and you can check out the streams and support the work they're doing over there. Also, if you do want to catch up with Sam, his live production services, and all the places you can find him on social media, you can head over to samproof.tv for that information. And if you want to catch up with me, you can head over to johnlacey.com. It's a whole bunch of articles, the podcast. Social links are at the bottom of those pages. Come find me on YouTube and LinkedIn. They're really the places I hang out the most. So that can be really, really cool. But again, thank you so much for joining me today. We'll be back next week. I don't know what next week's topic's going to be just yet. So if there is something you'd be interested in hearing about, let me know in the chat or the comments where you're watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Again, this will probably cut my head off, but that's okay. Like and subscribe wherever you happen to be watching this. We do really appreciate that. So have a great week, have a great weekend when you get there, and I'll talk to you again very, very soon.